Hey, I'm Erica.
And I'm Jules. Most people have at least one thing that they can't or won't eat.
Yeah, we're definitely like that.
We started this podcast to talk about the gluten-free food industry.
Like new products and some of the stories behind your favorite brands.
And living life with a specialty diet, and also some important healthcare topics.
Since we're basically both broken inside.
You had me at eat.
Hi. Hello. Welcome to another episode of You Had Me at Eat. I'm Erica. This is Jules. We have a podcast. This is it. You're welcome.
We are here for you.
We're here for you. We are celebrating the end of dry January by celebrating alcohol because we weren't doing dry January to begin with. Well, I may be slinging mocktails and on the show floor looking for non-alcoholic spirits for our mocktail bar. We are just celebrating a very wet January as a very wet month, as we do for every other month here.
I've never understood dry January, because isn't January the month where like everyone's super depressed after the holidays and it's like cold and it's dark and it's just
I feel like
wintry.
Maybe that's why you shouldn't drink during January, which is I think why they do dry January. So I'm just saying,
never mind. Okay,
if you have a problem and you need someone, reach out to people. Yep. This
not
is
us. Don't reach out to us.
Don't reach out to us because we're going to be too busy.
Because I actually
with alcohol.
Cook with distilled alcohol and naturally gluten-free beer 12 months a year. So I mean, dry January is not ever meant for me either. So
no,
because when you pour most of the gluten-free beer into your gluten-free chocolate beer cake, and you have a little bit left, it seems sinful to pour it down the drain because naturally gluten-free beers are not only very delicious and hard to come by, they're very expensive. Yes. So got to put it somewhere.
So if you're doing dry January, wait until February and then you can listen to this episode because it is all about cooking and baking with distilled liquor. We're going to put some recipes in there that Jules loves to show off because she has so many great recipes that she uses distilled liquor for, as do I, because I make all of hers, including her rum cake, which was so good. And so we'll be sharing that in the liner notes today because cooking and baking with distilled liquor and gluten-free beer is fantastic. So it's not just for drinking, folks. And that's our special episode today. So today we have a very special episode because we're talking all about cooking and baking with distilled alcohol. Chef Dave Martin, who is one of the contestants on season 1 of Top Chef. If you remember the fantastic phrase, "I'm not your bitch, that's Chef Dave Martin. He has obviously gone on to do more things than just saying "I'm not your bitch."
How could
more than being a Top Chef contestant, which, if you remember season 1, such a good season. So it's great to be able to interview him. He's gone on, he had restaurants in New York. He splits his time between New York and Southern California. And he is now all about my tequila diet. So the Tequila Diet book is a new cookbook from him. And it talks all about cooking and baking with tequila, as well as obviously enjoying a glass of tequila with all of the recipes. So Jules had a chance to cook through some of the cookbook, and then we had a chance to sit down and interview him about the new book and about his time on Top Chef. And we just want to share with you the joy of tequila, the joy of cooking with tequila. And so here is our interview with Top Chef season 1 contestant, Chef Dave Martin.
So we're really pleased to be joined today by Chef Dave Martin, a fascinating American chef with an international bent. He was made famous on season 1 of Bravo's TV's Top Chef, but his most recent endeavor is something that Erica and I find even more interesting. He's on a mission to convince people to love tequila. And that definitely got my attention.
Definitely not dry January up in this business right now. For those of you listening on this podcast, obviously Jules and I are big fans of all distilled alcohol and beer, gluten-free beer and wine. Gluten-free, so while I do work at a mocktail bar, I do obviously want to support whoever is not doing dry January. So great guest that we have.
And we are not doing
great guest that we have today.
Yeah. Yeah, and tequila is one of the distilled alcohols, but all distilled alcohol is gluten-free if it has not been supplemented on the back end with something that also contains gluten. But anyway, his new cookbook is called the Tequila Diet, and it's an homage to the drink and what you can cook with it. And in addition, nearly every recipe in the book just so happens to be gluten-free. Yes, and we saw a picture of that cookbook. But welcome, Chef, to You Had Me at Eat.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, where do we find you today? Where are you?
I am in San Diego. Yes.
Beautiful.
Where we all wish we were, especially in January.
I bet. Yeah. I know. Yeah, happily in San Diego.
Yeah, wow. Well, thank you for taking time to join us today. We are thrilled to have you. Would love to talk to you about lots of things. But before we actually dive into talking about the drink, when I was looking at your background, something that really stood out for me, which I found fascinating, was that you actually left the tech industry to pursue something that was arguably a little less glamorous, which is a career in the kitchen. Could you tell us a little bit more about what that transition was like? Why did you make that transition?
Yeah, this origin story is probably one of the things that got me on Top Chef along with other cooking shows because it's not the standard path. So, I was always in the food and beverage business through high school and college, blah, blah, blah. Not cooking, but, serving and all that kind of stuff. But I came from a family that cooked, home cooking. So the market for me crashed in 2000, which it did for a lot of people. But that was when I had a recruiting agency that was technology focused. My team and I built a company that became America Online, Irvine, with about over 100 engineers. But market crashed in 2000. And I was like, shit, what am I going to do? I had just bought a new house on the beach. I had another property in Orange County. I had 3 cars, personal assistant. I had all the things, if you will. And so it was very fast and furious. And I went from making a ton to making none. So, I saw this gal at the gas station. She probably shouldn't have been in her chef coat pumping gas, but I did see that there was a port near. And so really it started from that. I was like, I didn't know there was one out here. And so, I literally a week or two later, I went up there and toured and started, and the rest is history. It was a real program, at least 18 months of school, not like a 3 month, boom, how to cook. But so it was, that's kind of how it all happened. And then now I'm here basically 20 years later, and I am still doing it and still going strong. And I still love it. Yeah.
So you saw the sign at a gas station, and you wound up in culinary art school
pumping gas that said on blue, and I was like, okay, here we go.
Nice. I love it. I love it. It was a sign.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
We both have shifted careers. I've come from health tech to nonprofit to literally qualitative market research for like massive corporations, and it's very interesting to see how much crossover there is, but yet how different life can be. I've followed food with CPG, to where I was to where I am now, and healthcare and health tech and learning about our bodies and gluten-free and celiac disease. But it's interesting, the tech services to cooking. Is there anything that you miss about tech besides just the money?
Okay. Starting with that, we all agree that that's a given.
Money. Yeah.
And the personal assistant, which I wish I had.
Yeah, exactly. But I know money's not everything and all that, but it was great when I had it. And, I was just a natural at the job, so I really didn't have to do anything. Now it's a lot different, and especially with the shift from what I was doing pre-COVID to what I'm doing now, it's still all food, but it's really more private chefing and such at events, which is where I had shifted from events and things like that to more consulting. And consulting is still very flat on the food side, at least what I'm seeing nationwide still. So it's all good. I'm lucky, and I've pivoted, another stupid millennial buzzword, but I had to do what I had to do, and it's all good. And I'm thankful and grateful and all the other words. But I love what I do, and I'm still passionate about it. I just wish I could have some consulting come back, because that's a really good balance for me. Not that I mind working 12 and 15 hours a day, but P.S. I work more than like a 25-year-old. So so that's the only thing I miss, not just the money, but like I didn't do anything and made money. So it's a lot more
easy street.
stuff. And, thankfully I'm in good health and all that, but it's a lot of work. Yeah. Most of the time.
I mean, for me, cooking is a stress release. I have always found it's very cathartic. Just the process of adding things together and making something beautiful to share with other people, and finding that you're making something that brings joy. And
that's what it's all about. That's what I do it for. I do it for the people and the response, and that's what it's for. You know what I mean? And I love that. So that has not gone away.
Yeah.
So let's pivot to something not as heartwarming and enjoyable, which is life and times on reality TV. You were on the first season of obviously what became a massive revolution in TV for reality TV, and the glorification of chefs, and making, celebrity chefs and chefs a new rock star. How did you feel about your time there? I mean, obviously it kickstarted something. You were fresh out of culinary school, I believe. How did that change kind of your career path? And if you had a chance, would you do it again?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely expedited things for me. It got me moved to New York, which I spent 13 years there, which was great, from a food perspective and everything else. It really taught me. I learned a ton. I mean, it was not easy, but I made it work. But now I'm back in the sun, and I still work in New York. I just live in San Diego by choice. That's all by design. It was a great, season one was so different from where it is today.
Totally.
It's like so pedigree. It's like barf. I don't watch that stuff, but, and there's so many other shows, and, I did all the Chopped and Cutthroat Kitchen network stuff, which is a totally different world. That's a one day, type thing versus multiple weeks, and more personalities and things of that nature. But yeah, of course I would do it again. I mean, I have no regrets. It was fine. It was great. And obviously I still use it, because the brand is still alive, like 20 years later. But yeah, all good. And I would totally do it. And, it was real and it wasn't produced. Things obviously are more produced at this point because they have to be. Be better,
manufactured drama.
Yeah, exactly. Like ours was all real, and everything I did and said was me. So
do people still use your tagline when talking to you?
I still have,
because it's my favorite.
I still have people out there that will be like, oh my God, I'm not your bitch, or will you say that to my husband or whatever. So
honestly, if you
Erica says it to me all the time, so I don't know.
If you got on Cameo and just offered that could be a whole revenue stream.
I know. I am on there, but I just never launched it. I just never took the time. But so it's still going, and that was a real moment. Yeah, not something that was planned by any means. So yeah, it's been a crazy ride. I've done so many things since then. Coming off the show and just, even present day. So
did you learn things about cooking there, or was it more just about getting along with other people and stressful and how to navigate in front of a camera? Was there actually any real learning about cooking and the stuff that you see as a viewer watching? You're like, oh, they must have just learned how to do all of that stuff. But did you really learn anything? Is it more just like a learning experience about being in front of the camera?
I was so junior in professionally cooking at that point, maybe a year or two. So I really got to see oh my God, how much more there was out there, and that's also what my move to New York and things taught me. And I really became so much more, where I am now, in terms of global cuisine and the projects that I did work on pre-COVID. I did an Indian fast casual. I did a Russian concept. I went to Tbilisi and learned stuff on the ground. So really, it kind of opened my eyes to so much more, and that whole world opened me to really having a global appreciation and understanding of food. So this book, the Tequila Diet, it's about tequila, but it's really about Mexican food,
Right.
So I'm Mexican, Indian, I can literally do any cuisine, and I love having that ability and diversity. because everyone can't do that. A lot of chefs, they focus on, they're in their lane, like Japanese focus, this focus. So literally I can, and it helps for my clients that I work with all summer in the Hamptons and things, because like I can do anything, like, which is pretty big. Like not everyone can. So I'm super thankful for that. And I think Top Chef kind of opened my eyes to a much bigger world in terms of food.
Yeah. So let's actually jump right into tequila, since we are mentioning the tequila diet.
Yeah.
We love all alcohol, obviously. Here again, we're not doing dry January. What led you to like tequila? I know that, and please go into your love of Mexico and your visits there. What led you to your love of tequila versus maybe other alcohols? How do you make the switch from wine to tequila? Everyone's talking about tequila health benefits right now. So what made you kind of dig into tequila?
Yeah, I mean, Mexico's been part of my history of, living in Southern California. Like it was, where we'd go when I was young, when I was like in college. So really one of the first foreign places that I went in terms of, to me, I don't think of it as another country, but it is. But, in terms of drinking, like I've been on the tequila, really just tequila and wine for a long time. I really don't drink anything else. I don't like all the sugars and I don't like all that stuff. So it's pretty much what I drink, and I've been on it before it was hip and trendy. I'm more of a reposado person in terms of the style of tequila that I prefer, and I just drink it straight. So I'm not really big on mixers and cocktails. And the way the whole book came about was I had just been to Italy, and we were just like, tons of pasta and wine and loving it. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, I gained a ton of weight. I
have no idea how that would happen.
Weird.
Yeah, I know.
So bizarre.
It doesn't happen anymore because I make sure I walk 10 miles a day in Europe. But whatever. It was what it was. And I came back and I was like, oh my God. And so I stopped drinking wine and just drank tequila and went back to the gym and all that other stuff. But I lost like 8 or 10 pounds in like whatever, 6 or 8 weeks. And I was like, oh my God, I'm on the tequila diet. So it started as a joke to all my friends and family. And then fast forward like a year later, like a buddy of mine in Sun Valley is like, hey, we have this tequila company that wants to do this charity event. We know you can do Mexican. And, I met them and pitched the idea. And so that's kind of how it all started. It started as a joke, which I do like to joke around a lot. So, but yeah, now it became something real intangible that, we spent the last couple of years working on, and now it's a real thing. And, I'm proud of it. Like it's a nice book, and I worked really hard to put it together.
Do you have a favorite brand of tequila?
Yeah, I noticed on your site you had El Baston del Rey. Do you have, is that your favorite brand, your preferred brand? What do you recommend for people to cook with? I mean, we don't want people just to go like bottom shelf anything for any liquor, but do you have a preferred brand or variety of tequila?
Yeah, I did the book with Baston del Rey. They're a great brand. They've been around for a long time. They're newer in the U.S. They're in like 10 or 12 states now, but they have a direct order on their site as well. So their stuff is really amazing. Like even their silver, like I'm not really a silver guy because to me that's normally the harsher of the tequilas. Even when they're well done, I don't like it. So that's a brand I did the book with and I've had the relationship with, but I realize on the fly you can't necessarily get that everywhere. So my thing with tequila is, and anything, I don't need to pay for the branding and marketing. Yeah, I mean, I know George Clooney, I know they did that and sold it for a bill, whatever. Like all of that stuff, not that it's bad, but you're paying for the branding and marketing versus old school brands like Casaduras, Herradura. There's so many old school brands that are actually great tequilas, but you're not paying the marketing and promotion budget. So my thing is, get the best that you can within your price point and what's available to you, and stay away from the over branded stuff. Like you don't need to use the Clase Azul. You know what I'm saying? I mean, give me a break. Ring the bell. It's $200 a bottle. Like ringing the bell.
Definitely don't cook with that.
Yeah.
whatever. So that kind of stuff, tequila has really blown up over the last several years.
Now, do you use a different variety or different brand to cook with versus drinking?
No, I drink just like wine. You want to use wine that you drink, that you cook with, because you're reducing it and you're concentrating it. So like if you're drinking garbage, you're going to reduce garbage and make it even more concentrated. So,
that's a good point.
I use what I would drink.
Don't make concentrated garbage. That's a good way of cooking.
You should put that in the book too. Yeah.
Obviously.
There's a lot of really amazing tequilas out there that are actually still very affordable and very good. So, it's actually a lot of options out there.
Good deal. Because see, I was really drawn to the book for many reasons, but one was because I have loved cooking with alcohol in many, many types of recipes before. And I had not tried cooking with tequila yet. I mean, I've obviously, you do lots of sauces and things with wines, but I have used gluten-free beer in a number of recipes. Obviously, you've got beer breads and things, but one of my favorite recipes on my site using alcohol is naturally gluten-free beer in a chocolate cake. So a gluten-free stout in a chocolate cake, and it is amazing. It enhances the flavor so much of the chocolate. And so I was really intrigued by your use of tequila, because it's not just thrown in there as a gimmick, right? Like you really are enhancing the flavors. So how did you select some of the recipes in the book in order to really maximize that, the enhancement of the flavors, because tequila brings that out?
Yeah, I kind of, again, having that French foundation of cooking and then cooking all these other cuisines, you have the use of the fortified wines, the sherry in France, the marsala in Italy. So, the way this kind of all came about for me, and then as well as using other wines, but the fortified ones are the ones that really you're going to get the flavor, the residual, something coming through. I mean, if you have a good palate, you're going to get it. If not, it's going to just wash over. But, I just started integrating it with the Mexican cuisine, because I was like, well, that's a natural product of that region. That's really important for me when I'm cooking from different countries, when I do the research and when I start doing it, is I keep everything kind of indigenous to what they would use in that region. That's very important to me. So that's kind of how it started happening for me in the kitchen, using tequila. And then just, picking some of the classic recipes that people know, that they've had, that they've seen, whether it's chilaquiles or ceviche and things like that, and having that part of, having tequila, you have the different varietal, I call them varietals, but you've got your silver, your repo, and your añejo, your extra añejo. So they're all different levels of aging and distillation or non in the silver. So those were choices that were made on purpose too. Like, so for the ceviche, I believe I used the silver in that because that's like light and clean, that goes with the pineapple and all the other components. And then same thing when we get into some of the braised meats and such, that may be more repo or añejo, or like maybe in some of the desserts, the extra añejo, like in the caramel or whatever. But those were all conscious decisions as well. Picking something that's going to work. I'm a big flavor guy. Like I'm known for my flavors, and that's one of my strengths. And so that's where that tequila comes in as another layer in each and every dish, but it's all on purpose and calculated.
Well, speaking of on purpose and calculated, did you realize at the end of the day that like, hey, I've made a cookbook where almost, everything in here happens to be gluten-free?
That's just kind of how I happen to cook. And I always have before that was a trend or something that people were doing. Like I always hated when people were making roux and such to thicken sauces. And I was like, gross. Like why am I adding flour to something just to have it? I didn't, that was just me and how I do it. And again, when I cook for large groups and all these folks, I want to make sure that like, every sauce, soup, whatever, there's never any of that stuff in there. And so even as a young cook, I was using potato starch or rice flour. If I needed to create a roux, I use one of those with butter or whatever, or oil. That's what I'll use as a thickening agent if I actually need it. But aside from that, I'm just not really big on having it to have it. So, I'm really big on.
That's great.
That's just how I cook. Yeah.
And I mean, you've been a chef obviously for many years now. How have you seen in your restaurant and catering business, how have you seen the demand for gluten-free and specialty diets? Have you seen that change from the consumer, perspective? How have you seen that change, people asking for it and needing it? And then on the flip side of that, from your perspective as a chef, how have you seen the responses change? I mean, because I know just since, I've been in the industry, there's been a big shift in, chefs being like resistant, a lot of chefs to really serving that market, to a lot of chefs, now saying, hey, this is not going away, and seeing it as a challenge and saying, hey, I love rising to the challenge because this is what I do. And I want to, serve these consumers. So, have you seen the demand change, and how have you seen from the chef's perspective, people either rising to the occasion or still being rather resistant to it?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been hip to it and understood it. I'm from California, so
well, that's true.
We care about the trends like that. So, and for me, if that's the customer and that's what they're asking, then that's what I'm going to do. So I've never been, chefs are dicks pretty much. So, it's about their ego or arrogance, and that's not where I come from. Yeah. So I cook for my customer. I cook for my client.
Well, and you have the benefit of like true Mexican cuisine. I'm from Arizona. So we have the benefit of also true Mexican cuisine, and not the BS where you're adding some, cheese onto it or a wheat tortilla. Traditional street tacos don't have all of that. So it's nice to have a chef cook that way traditional as well, and to have that influence of Southern California too. So let's dive into the book. We've obviously tried some recipes from your book, and we've seen videos too. We did some research on some of the other live cooking demonstrations that you've done with this book, which is great because you always have a drink in your hand as well, which is how we prefer to cook.
Great.
What is your favorite recipe from the book? And it's something that it may not be something that you cook all the time, but one of your favorites, and then probably your most used recipe for you personally.
Definitely one of my favorites that takes really kind of the most craft, and I've been looking at and working on for years, is the mole, the negro mole. To me, that's very hard to emulate. And I've talked to chefs in different parts of Mexico, so I've gotten different tips that have led up to that. So that's definitely one of my favorites. Like, I love it. Like, when I'm in Mexico, like, I'll literally eat it like soup. So it's a thing. Like, I love it. So that's definitely one of my favorites. Some of the versatile ones, definitely my enchilada sauce. I make that a lot, and use it for various applications. Which is, to me, a sister sauce to the mole. The mole is just a more complex version of the enchilada sauce, I think. I'm a sauce guy. So for me, it's the sauces that defines a chef, a so-so chef from a good chef, is the sauces, the soups, and all of those things. And that's really where I think I shine in that category, because it's what I love. Like, I make those things just for myself to eat. Like, I do cook for myself. I don't have delivery every night. Like, I'd be 300 pounds. So so I do like making those things. And I think they're really great recipes.
Well, I had a hard time picking because all of your recipes looked so good. And I actually, when I get a chance and get a break from the stuff that I have to make for my own business, I cannot wait to make the pancakes and the tequila syrup for the pancakes. Good. But what I did is I had some guests over, and we made a huge dinner with the fish Veracruz, and we made the basic pinto beans, the hatch green chili rice, the corn and poblano filling, guacamole, and yellow corn tortillas. So
how did it all turn out?
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. And the best part was we had leftovers, so we got to eat the rest for days. And my daughter loved it. Everyone loved it. And I mean, everything was stellar. I'm telling you, I've got dog-eared pages and notes everywhere. It was phenomenal, chef. I loved everything. And what I've got to tell you, though, my favorite part was it sounds silly, but the basic pinto beans are anything but basic. They were phenomenal. The flavor was so good, and the hatch green chili rice I'm going to make probably every week for the rest of my life, because everyone at the dinner was like, this rice is outstanding. And for people just to comment on rice, and it just sounds weird, but the rice could have just stood on its own without anything else. And we ended up using the corn and poblano filling as almost like a dip beforehand, because, we were just sort of standing around like finishing the dinner, and people were eating that with the chips and then putting it on everything was outstanding. So kudos to you.
Thank you. I love hearing that. I am a huge bean guy. I love beans.
Yes. Yes. And they're so healthy. They're so good for you.
So good. Your protein, your fiber, like literally. Yeah. When I'm home, like I eat beans every day. It's like my fiber. But I love it. There's so many kinds of beans, and if you have an Instapot, it's such a magic.
I just have a standard pressure cooker, but that's what I did. I ended up soaking the beans the night before, because you never know how fresh your beans are when you just get them at the grocery store. And I didn't have time to order them from my favorite place. The Rancho Gordo beans were my favorite, but we ended up just getting them at the grocery store. And you just never know how fresh the dried beans are. So I did soak them, and then I ended up doing them in the pressure cooker, just for good measure. But they were spot on.
Yeah. So at this point, we would just love for you to just plug away. So tell us where we should purchase a book, because as authors ourselves, we know that some places obviously are better for you to purchase books. And then also, if there's anything else that you wanted to share about what's coming up for you and beyond kind of just the book, now is your chance to plug away.
Yeah. As far as the book, obviously, here's the thing, like, if you're someone that likes the digital books, like that's really the deal. They're $10. You can get it on, iBooks or Amazon. It's on all the platforms electronically, and that's a really great way if you don't want to spend the $30 to $40 is kind of what it goes for, for the physical copy, because it's self-published. So you guys know how expensive it is.
Like, yes.
Let's just say, like, this is not a retirement fund. So,
no.
But, the platform that you wish is fine, but digital is really great, because that's where I get the best margin, but that's a super way to have the book, like on your Mac or your iPad or whatever platform you work on. But, wherever you want to get it is fine with me. Or you can order directly from mytequiladiet.com, and I can actually send signed copies. So that's really
that's a good
great.
one.
Yeah, I have them here. But yeah, wherever you'd like. And in terms of me, I'm just here. I'm in New York pretty much half the year, in San Diego or Mexico. And now that we're able to travel again, I'm looking at Tahiti and places. So just all over the world. And, I don't know what's coming next consulting wise, but I'm just happy to be alive. And, I just back from a week in Mexico. And so I'll probably be there a couple more times this year. But yeah, just the book is fun. And I appreciate the feedback from your side. And, I think that, that's what it takes to get the word out, that the recipes are approachable and they're actually good. So that's
and plug your Instagram too.
Oh, Instagram. Yeah. I'm Chef Dave Martin on all platforms. So please reach out to me there. Chef Dave Martin or My Tequila Diet. Those are basically all the at blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So,
and we'll put that in the liner notes as well, so everyone knows how to follow Chef on all of the social media platforms, as well as purchase the book. We'll put the link in there to do the signed book, so people can give a great Christmas gift along with a bottle of tequila. So. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Chef. We really appreciate it. And good luck with everything on your tequila diet journey. We are so thankful that you stopped by, and we'll put everything in the liner notes for you to follow up and for you to start your very own tequila diet as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thanks so much, Chef Dave. We really appreciate your time, and it was great talking to you today. We will put lots of information in the liner notes, links, and recipes, and be sure to join us next week for another awesome episode of You Had Me at Eat.
Everyone go buy a bottle of your favorite tequila, and let's celebrate the tequila diet.
Cheers.